Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Now in this video we will discuss about an active voice and passive voice with some examples and some of the tricks what we have to use when we are changing active voice into passive voice. First we have to know what's the meaning of the active voice. Active voice tells us what a person or thing does in the sentence. Always active voice tells us what a person or a subject, here person is a subject, or thing does verb in the sentence. Always in the active sentence, the subject performs the subject performs the action on the object. Subject performs action on object. Okay, here the active voice tells us what a person or things does in the sentence. In the active sentence, the subject always performs action on the object. Active voice is a given the action. Active voice is given the action, and passive voice is a receiver of the action. Subject performs the action and the object receive the action. Okay, the next one is passive voice, and the next one is passive voice. Passive voice tell us what is done to someone or something. The passive voice tells us what is done by the subject in or and on the object. In the active voice, subject performs the action on the object, whereas in the passive voice, the subject is receiving the object. Subject is receiving action from object. Here I will explain one of the structure to changing the structure to active voice and the passive voice. Active voice is subject plus verb plus object. When we come to the passive voice, here the formula or the structure is change. Object plus verb plus subject. Here we have to follow the structure of X, rule of X. Here we are follow. Here subject goes in the end of the sentence and object comes in the at the beginning of the sentence. This is the structure of the active voice and the passive voice. Here in the active voice, the subject being acted upon the object, and the passive voice is a receiver of the action. Passive voice receiving the action. Here I give one example. I love my India. Example, I love my India. It is in a active voice. When we change it here, I is a subject, love is a action or verb, India is a object. When we change it into the passive voice, the sentence changed as my India is loved by me. Passive voice is my India is loved by me. This is a passive voice of the active voice. In the active voice, S plus verb plus object. Subject, verb and object. When we come to the passive voice, we change it into object, verb and the subject. I give you, I explain with the help of some of the example. She watched the video. It is in a active form. When we convert into the passive voice, the video is watched by her. This is a passive voice form of this sentence. Here we are using some of the helping verbs also. When we change the active voice into passive voice, we are taking the help of the, what is this, auxiliary verbs or the helping verbs. And the next example is Sally eating the apple. Here it is in a active voice. Solly is a subject, verb and the object. When we convert it into the passive voice, and the example is apples are eaten by Sally. It is a passive voice. Or is a helping verb. We are using the word by when we change it into the passive voice. Now I will tell you some of the rules for changing active voice to passive voice. Rule number 1 is the rule of X. The X rule. As I said in the last example, in the active voice we have subject plus verb plus object. When we change it into, this is the active voice, when we change it into the passive voice, it becomes object plus verb or action plus subject. This is the rule of X. I give one of the example. Rahul hold the books. Rahul hold the books. Here subject, verb and the object. When we converted into passive voice, the books are held by Rahul. Here we are using the formula O plus V plus S. This is a rule of X. X comes here. In the active voice, we saw S in the beginning. In the passive voice, we saw S at the end. In the active voice, we have object at the end of the sentence. In the passive voice, we have this object at the beginning of the sentence. And the rule number 2 is helping verbs. When we change the active voice into passive voice, we are using some of the helping verbs like is, are, was, were. These are also known as auxiliary verbs. When we saw the sentence in the passive voice, we use a helping verbs. Okay, these helping verbs are also known as auxiliary verbs. I give one example. Stars lit on the sky. Okay, we are converted into the sky was lit up by the stars. Here was is a helping word. It is the active voice. This is a passive voice. When we change the active voice into passive voice, we are always take the help of the auxiliary helps. This is the second rule. First one, rule of X. The second one is the helping verbs. Third rule was a bystander. Always the passive voice plays the role of the bystander. Passive voice is spoken by the neutral person and standing by side. Okay, 99% of the sentence, in 99% of the sentences, the passive voice or certain the word by. Here we are using the word by because he is a standing by side and see the what happening and tell his experience in the passive voice. Some example is, one of the example, active voice: the teacher teaches the class. Teach the class. When we change it into the cloth was taught by the teacher. In the every passive voice we are using the word by, because in the active voice the subject does the action directly. In the passive voice it is a reverse action. Just the passive voice stand by side and observe the situation and then he tells the sentence. And the fourth rule is, when we have the continuous tense in the active voice, when we are changing it into the passive voice, we are using the word, what is it? Being. We are using the word being when we change it into the, what is, passive voice. In the active voice, we does not have the word being when we change it into the passive voice. If the sentence is in a continuous tense, at that time we are using the word being. The sentences are continuous passive voice are compulsory having being in it. It is being verb form. When it is in the continuous verb form, that time we are using the word being. I give one of the example for that. Active voice is, we are playing cricket. Playing, it is a continuous tense. Playing is a continuous present tense. When we change this tense into the, when we change this sentence into the passive voice, the cricket is being played by someone. Cricket is being played by us. Being is a word because we are using it is in a continuous form. It is in a continuous tense. That's why we are using helping verb. And the third rule, it is the first rule is, we change it into the x rule we are follow here, and the next one is helping words also we have in the passive voice, and he is a work as a bystander. If you have the sentence continuous, we have the sentence in the continuous tense, at that time we are using the word being. Another one example also I give you here. A active voice: someone is following us. Someone is following us. When we change it into the passive voice, we are being followed by someone. Followed by someone. Following, here we have the continuous tense, that's why we are using the word being by or. This is about the active voice and the passive voice. Another one small rule we have, and the fifth one rule is, if we have has, had and have in the sentence, in the active voice sentence, when we change it into the passive voice, we are using the word been. Has been. When we change it into the passive voice, we have to convert it into the been. We are using the, we change the sentence by using been in the passive voice. An example I give you for that one also. Example is, has anybody answered your question? Has anybody answered your question? Anybody answer your question? When we change it, answer your question. When we change it into the passive voice, it is in a active voice. When we change it into passive voice, has your, because we are using the word has here, we have to use the word been here. Question been answered. This is a passive voice. This is the last rule of the active voice and the passive voice. Okay, has anybody answer your question? This is the active voice. We are using has your question been answered, because we have the has word here. We are using the word been. Like had, have also, if you have in the sentence, as this time we have to use the word been. Okay friends, I think you understand. I will explain you in detail and you also understand this video. If you like my video, don't forget to subscribe my channel. Okay friends.